Hi everybody, Donna Gottesman here. I am getting ready to answer Module 4 discussion questions. The first question, what is the relationship between the language spoken in the home and the rate at which an additional language is learned? How does culture factor into this? There are so many factors that go into this. Developing key relationships between language spoken in the home and how quickly a child learns a second language in school has many factors. As discussed in an article that I found called The Language and Literacy Development of Young Dual Language Learners, the amount of children in Head Start programs that enter speaking another language is about 30%. 85% of those are Hispanic and are Spanish speaking. It's incredible. And the rate of this is going to be increasing more and more every year. I see it in our school, how many Spanish-speaking students we have at this point. And I know that will be discussed in our next lesson to find out how many. The factors that attribute to all of this and them developing their second language, a big part of it is their family relationships, as well as their oral language skills and their early literacy development. And that will determine their academic success. I have many ELL students in our class and in our school that are very successful, and others who struggle terribly. Again, being a teacher that works with children with special needs, and I see both. I see some of them who are Spanish speaking that struggle because they have deficits in certain areas, not just because they have they speak another language. And some of the factors that go into this are their working memory or their processing skills. How do they process information that's given to them? Also, what their visual motor skills are. What kind of a learner are they? These are all key factors that we as educators have to be responsible to understand and to know and to learn about all our students. The study also suggests that their knowledge of their language plays another key role. How are they at developing their own language, let alone the English language? Because in children who are Spanish speaking, their alphabet is very similar to ours. So it should be a little bit easier for them. Now, children who speak other languages, maybe if they're Asian or from an Indian country, or their language is completely different from ours, and it makes it very difficult. But another factor that goes into all of this is how educated parents are. Some of these parents of children that come from other countries have college degrees or have been exposed to learning another language, and it also plays a factor if they speak English at all. A lot of our Spanish-speaking students, when they go home, they don't speak any English. There is really not anybody there to help them with their academics. Whatever they get and whatever they learn is done in school. So all of that plays a major role. You'd like to say that environment, I'm not sure about that. I've done a lot of thinking and research about that area. I'm not sure how much that plays a role. I think most of these kids, a big part of it is how they learn. They are all loved and taken care of, and if they're not, will that play a role in it? Of course it will. That's with any student that we teach. Depending on their environment and where they came from and their background, all of that plays a major role in their academic success, whether they speak another language or not. So now I'm going to move on to my second question. And this one discusses the biases and prejudices that many educators harbor for their CLD students, culturally, linguistically diverse students, based on culture, nationality, ethnicity, religion, language, etc. What should educators do to address these types of bias when they encounter them? Well, wow. That happens every day. And, watching the video that we had to watch on TED Talk that was done was amazing. In the in the TED Talk, she discusses how just what somebody wears can affect how we look at them and how we see them and how we address them. I try to think of myself as somebody who doesn't do that, but we all have some kind of a cultural a bias. We may say we don't, but no matter how you look at it, we try not to do that, and I try to pride myself in somebody who doesn't do that and try to look at the person inside. But it can be difficult sometimes, and I think admitting that may be a problem is the first step. Just like she stated in her TED Talk, how important it is not to look at just what somebody's wearing or what they do for a living, or look at the person inside. Try to get to know them. Try to get to know what's going on, and also the article we had to read, it stated that personal beliefs are powerful filters that shape how an individual sees the world, how it sees other people, and how it sees oneself. And that was by Nelson and Guerra, 2014, on page 70. That is such an important part of all of this. It's how we look at things. How do we see the world? How do we see our students? That's what's going to motivate us to determine how to teach them. I try to enter my classroom every day looking at all my students as if they're these beautiful, bright minds that want to learn, no matter where they're from, no matter what culture they came from, no matter what religion they came from. Many educators determine a child how they think and how they understand based on their backgrounds and even their religion. And I think we have a responsibility as teachers on helping each other get through those biases and try not to have those biases. And I think being models for each other. I try to pride myself in treating every teacher in the school and every student in the school with respect, and I think a huge part of it is the modeling. We come across this every day working with our students. Developing a school, we need to all be culturally responsive on developing a school that is that way. And as suggested in the article, programs need to be developed through in-services. Even at our school, we don't really have many in-services that address this. Our ELL teachers just started this year addressing the issue and discussing, language acquisition with us. And most of my research has been through my ESOL classes here, through this master's program. I feel really privileged and honored. The ELL teachers in our school tell me that they feel like I know more than they do now. And so that's tremendous. And so we have to spread the word. We have to, as educators, be responsible to help each other and help teach each other and give each other resources and ideas. And we should and interacting with our parents, developing those relationships with our parents, or parents that don't speak English at home, opening the lines of communication. As a special ed teacher, I run IEP meetings to develop individual educational programs for my students. And I see at those meetings how parents who don't speak any English, even though we have interpreters at those meetings, I see the looks on their faces, and it's just, even just looking at them while I'm doing my meeting and not looking at the interpreter, how important that is. Showing them that they matter, that it matters what they think. It matters what they feel. It matters the connection between home and school. It's tremendous. It's just such a huge part of all this. And that's all part of us being culturally responsible and understanding where they're coming from and in their culture and their environment, and getting to know their families, getting to know the students. Having that open line of communication, as I stated earlier. We need to shift our thoughts about culturally and linguistically diverse students, from blaming to understanding how to help. Not putting blame on the families, not putting blame on the parents. And that came from Bennett And he stated, caring teachers with good intentions often blame the families. We don't mean to. Teachers don't mean to do that, but they do. And that was from page 347. I found that. And, we can't put blame on anybody. We have to take responsibility in making sure, no matter what, that we are teaching these students. And that's all part of that social connection. We have to use those 4 domains when we're teaching our students, and developing that language acquisition. We have to be responsible to make that connection between home and school. As Bennett noted on page 339 in his text, we have to be culturally competent teachers. So important, so significant in all of this. As Yasmin Abdel Magid, 2014 from TED Talks, as she stated, so much more than a piece of cloth. These kids are so much more than their clothes. We have to be unconsciously biased. We have to not be unconsciously biased. We have to really make a conscious effort into recognizing when we are being biased. And that's a really hard skill to develop. We have to learn how to filter out and see the world, see everybody whole, and see everybody as, important and able to learn and to develop these skills. And that's what we have to do with our students each and every day. Their minds are open. They want to learn. And how we present ourselves to our students is how they will develop that wanting, that yearning to learn. So I guess that's all I have for right now. I hope that I answered these questions thoroughly, and looking forward to having discussions about this. Thank you. Bye.